afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our fActSci Part 2, the Actuary. So, as we all know, graduates of the Actuarial Science program venture into numerous and varied career paths, and the purpose of our fActSci webinar series is to inform you all about the various employment paths available after completing your BSc in Actuarial Science here at UWI. So the Actuary is the second installment of this event, which features those who actually continue down the actuarial path. Today, we have two UWISTA alums giving their experience on their time here at UWI, as well as what inspired them to pursue their current careers. So our first guest is Ms. Kafi Warner, an actuarial analyst at Guardian Life. In 2013, Kafi began her actuarial career by pursuing a BSc in Actuarial Science here at UWISTA, and she then graduated in 2016 with first-class honors. Now, being a recipient of a national scholarship, which she obtained from pursuing CAPE, she opted to complete her one-year service as an AP in the Department of Math and Statistics here at UWI, and after her journey at UWI, she was employed as an actuarial analyst in pricing and product development team at Guardian Life. In March of 2021, Kafi was successful in obtaining the designation of an ASA of the Society of Actuaries. At present, she is pursuing her fellowship level exams with the SOE. So, Kafi, without further ado, you can start.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. You guys are hearing me? Let me put on my camera.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here to speak with you guys. So I'll just start off with some background information on, well, basically the start of my entire actuarial career. So everything would have started basically with me being good at math at the primary and secondary school level. I'm pretty sure that is the case for most of you guys here. So with me being good at math, I always liked it. I was good at it. And I wondered, okay, what can I do career-wise with this love for math? And so I did some research and I saw that I saw this thing about actuarial science and an actuary, and it really intrigued me. And digging further, I saw, okay, well, after my my studies at Bishop's, I went to Bishop Anstey High School and I did my CAPE level examinations there. And of course, I'm looking towards, okay, tertiary level, what am I to do? So I discovered that here at UWI St. Augustine, they do offer the actuarial science degree. So I was very pleased about that. And so I started my degree at UWI St. Augustine in 2013. And during my time there, I believe it would have been my year group was the start of the Actuarial Science Club, and we all joined, and it was useful in the sense that we have this community of students where we all have our common interests of passing these examinations, these professional examinations, whether it be on the SOA, IFOA, and we were able to share resources we were able to share the resources like manuals, past exams that will, help us pass these exams, help each other and give each other that support. Another thing I remember we were able to attend the CAA conference. The CAA is the Caribbean Actuarial Association. They held a conference here in Trinidad in 2015, and we were able to attend that. The ActSci club, we all went, and that was pretty cool that we were able to get that exposure. So with trying to pass these exams, I found that the degree, the ActSci degree, was really a good foundation, a good start for studying for these exams. As I'm sure you all know, the material that you cover in the courses that you all are doing here in UWI is not sufficient to pass the exams. So it's more because the syllabus is, it's too large to cover everything. So at least in my time, I'm not sure if the courses now are a bit different, but in my time, it wasn't. But I did find that it was a good start. It was a good foundation for me when it is I did start to study for the exams. It gave me that good understanding of the material for when I do use the manual to study for the actual exams. Um, it was good. I was able to have that understanding from before. So after my second year at UE, I did exam P, and I would have studied after like the second semester, and I would have studied in the summer break, and then I would have wrote the exam P in like September, and then similarly for the year after, I did FM and studied again during the summer break, and I wrote FM, and I was able to pass those on my first try. Um, and I would have used the ActX manual like for exam P, and I would have used the ASM for FM. And then the next year I attempt MFE, which is models for financial economics, but now it's a new exam called IFM, investment and financial mathematics. And I wrote that exam and I failed the first time. And it was devastating. I cried, no shame in crying, but you just wipe the tears, and I went and I tried again, and I was able to pass on my second time. The difference between the first and second time, though, the first time I just used the manual, the ASM manual, but then the second time I said, okay, I think I need to get a bit more practice, and someone recommended to me that I could use Coaching Actuaries. They had like practice problems on there. That would have been helpful. So I used that the second time, and it truly was helpful, and I was able to pass. So excuse me. So year after year, I would have done the others. So like C, which is basically STAM and SRM now. And then I did LTAM as well. And I use the same methodology for those, basically studying from the manual and using online study material. And I was able to be successful in those. So, right, so all in all, it took me about 6 years to become an ASA. So I would have started in 2015 with exam P. And as Caitlin said in the introduction, I became an ASA in March 2021. So it took me 6 years. These things the duration for you to get your designation, it varies by, person to person. But you just have to keep at it, keep trying. If it is, this is something you really want to do. And for some people, they will attempt the exams and they know, okay, this is not for me. I am not going to continue down this path. And so, I mean, just be honest with yourself. Um, so yeah, But it's not impossible. It's not impossible. It's very doable. I mean, we have ASAs and fellows in Trinidad and USA will. So it's not something that's impossible to do. Right. By the way, if you see me looking across here, it's because I have my bullet points just to make sure I stay on track and not divert into um, a whole long speech about other things. So, right. So I guess, so let me just, I know speaking about exams and then I'll delve into my job. So just to close off things about exam specific information, I just wanted to give some general exam tips. So one thing I always try to do is at least like 3 weeks or 3 weeks or a month before your exam, make sure to dedicate that time to just practicing past papers, practicing exam questions. A lot of the preliminary exams like P and FM, those exams, it's practicing those past exam questions would be very, very, very helpful in you passing the exam. So also writing out formulas and definitions multiple times, like actually writing it out is helpful to get that to stick in your mind. Just reading it out and memorizing it like that. At least for me, I don't find it, I don't find that it sticks in my brain. I need to write them out and like multiple times and it usually sticks that way. Also, trying to fundamentally understand the concepts and the topics that's in the syllabus. So one example I have is when I was studying for LTAM, there was this really, really long formula. I think it was for like a pension calculation to determine the pension benefits or something. Really long and complicated. And I said, okay, this is going to take me too long to memorize it. Let me just try to fundamentally understand what it is this formula is doing. And once I was able to do that, like how to piece together the different parts of the formula, it made a lot more sense to me. And also, it also helped me to memorize that formula easier, So yeah, so that's basically like an example of just trying to understand what is the formula is doing, and that also helps in memorizing the formulas. And one more last thing is just to get a really good night's rest before that exam. Don't you need that 3 hour exam to 5 hour exams, you really need your brain on 100% ready, alert to be able to recall everything that you've learned. And so don't try to cram everything the night before. You're not gonna remember. You're gonna be wasting a lot of energy for nothing. So just trust yourself, trust that what it is you studied all the months prior, you know it, trust that you know it, and say a prayer and everything will be fine. Right? If it is you don't pass, the only other thing is that you basically have a better opportunity of passing the next time, right? Because you would have done all that studying, and so that just means when you go back and study some more, you're applying, you're memorizing everything that you would have memorized before. So it's just gonna be able to stick in your mind better, and you're gonna have a better chance next time. Okay, so let's go into what I do in my job. So, right, so as Caitlin said, I'm an analyst at Guardian Life. So Guardian Life actual department is basically split into pricing and valuation. So I am on the pricing team. So the pricing team, things that I do, we basically price life and annuity products for Guardian Life. So here's where you will see a lot of the applications of the material you'll study in your life contingency courses. So things, present valuing your benefits, premiums, etc., etc. You're going to see a lot of those things in the pricing aspects of things. So a few steps that we would usually do when we're pricing a product. Let's say it's a whole life product. You come up with the features of the product, how will the benefit be paid out on death. The coverage is till age 100. The client will have cash values throughout the life of the policy, if it is they wish to surrender the policy. If there are any surrender charges, termination charges, things like that. And you come up with all the features that you want for your product. Then, so in order to price, okay, how much we need to charge for this product, we need to determine certain assumptions. So, I think you will be familiar with decrements. So, you have mortality decrement, like basically the probability of you dying, probability of the person lapsing the policy, and then other if it's a disability product, you'll have your incidents, the probability of them becoming disabled. We call those things incidence rates. And other assumptions, such as what we expect to return on the assets backing the business, what expenses we might incur, and also like how much business we expect to sell for the product, right? So once we have all those things, we will look to calculate a premium, what it is we want to charge the clients for the product. And however, once it is we do come up with some preliminary premiums to charge, we would also do like some benchmarking, because you want to make sure that the premium is in line with the premiums that other companies are charging. So, you don't want to charge a client anything too high, versus the other insurance companies, because then they'll just go to the other insurance companies. Once the other insurance companies are selling the same product, they could easily just go over there. Whereas if it's too cheap, then we may not be able to make enough money or recoup our actual expenses that we are incurring from selling these products, and the shareholders also, we expect a certain amount of return on the products that we are selling. So we don't want to disenfranchise our shareholders by selling a product too cheap, so basically we use a software called ASAs to do the pricing. And so, I mean, it's not like we would be manually doing the calculations on first principle basis, like how you guys would be learning in your courses. You will learn how to do these things on first principles. But of course, there are much more things that go into pricing a product, and we have software and stuff to do that. But it is important to understand the output of the software, so that knowing how to do these things fundamentally is important to make sure that what is coming out of the software is making sense. Right. So another thing that is covered by the pricing team is something called product profitability. So, excuse me. So with product profitability, we will take, usually it's done on the new business for the last year. So let's say for 2020, all the new business that came into Guardian, we would determine the profitability on that new business. So what that means is, for example, for our annuity line of business, how much profit is Guardian making per dollar of premium that we receive on our annuity business, right? Another metric could be like, what is the return that the shareholders is expected to get from the capital that they would have invested into that business. So usually that is shown on a product line level. So for each product line, annuity, traditional life, which is like term life, whole life, and things like that, we would show the profitability on those lines of business, right? And then a couple other things would be like day-to-day for me would be quotations, like special quotations. So as I said, we would usually price products, and in pricing those products, we usually have a certain amount of ages that are allowed to purchase this product. But sometimes you might have special requests come in for people that might be above the maximum issue age, and we might have to consult our reinsurers to see if they might accept it, accept the risk, and we might look at special cases like that from time to time. Some people might want projections on the existing policy. So say you have a life policy and you want to know, okay, what is your cash value going to be in 10, 15, 20 years? We might do projections, assuming a certain growth rate to determine the expected benefits and cash values that the client might get. And just one last thing I want to touch on. So from time to time, we also get to price bulk annuity quotations. So what that is that a company would usually have, let's say, a pension plan that they have for their employees, and they may want to like dissolve the pension plan and just get individual pensions for the employees, for the members instead. So what they'll do is reach out to well, the trustee would reach out to the various insurance companies and have them each quote basically for these for the members and these pension amounts, what is the single premium that is needed or for the company to pay out these future benefits, as in the pension amounts to the members. So various insurance companies will quote based on their specific assumptions and everything, and they will decide which insurance company to give the business, right? So yeah, that's basically what the main things that I would work on as a member pricing team. Evaluation team basically would just do valuation. So they will determine basically how much capital that the company needs to hold for the future benefits that we expect to have to pay out, things like that. So yeah, so I'll just wrap up there. I hope the information that I provided today was useful in some way, with respect to the exams and my actual career, my job and everything. So if any of you guys would want to reach out to me, you can have my email. It's Kafi, KAFI _Warner 945 @hotmail.com. And I assume if you don't have any questions segment, you could just reach out to me there as well. So that's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Kafi.
No
So
problem.
we're just gonna go into the Q&A session now. I have a few questions like ready for you. Hold on one moment. Okay, so someone wants to know, did you have a social life when doing your exams? So how did you balance enjoying life and passing exams?
All right, yeah, that's the $1,000,000 question. Yeah. So I mean, obviously, coming up to your exam, it would be you have less of a social life because you want to really focus on doing the exams. Well, studying for your exams. But I would say I do have a social life while studying the exams, working and doing the exams very difficult, especially if you have to we have a long commute between work and home. Um, I live in Arima side and my work is in Westmoreland. So the commute is a lot, but you just really have to try and push. I mean, a good thing, at least from this pandemic, was that we were able to work from home and I was able to get
Mhm.
more time to study at home. And even as things are getting back to normal, we have adopted mix um, a mixed working arrangement. So I would go in like for 3 days. I'll actually have to go in the office, and then for like the next 2 days in the week, I'll be home. But so generally, I would say yes. You do have a social life.
Okay, following that, how many hours a day did you study for?
Um,
Sorry. Before you move on, quick
oh,
question, Kathy. Just on the question of social life. How many questions about your social life were on the SOA exams?
absolutely none. Oh my
Mm,
gosh.
yeah, just checking.
But yeah, I mean, I understand that that is important. I mean, you can't um be working all the time and no play. But yeah, it you really have to buckle down, especially when your exam is coming up, really try you have to let people know, okay, I can't go out today, I have to study. That will be your life, but it's not that it's it's gonna be a life every time 24/7. It's not gonna be like that all the time. But yeah.
Yeah, so right, how long did you
Oh, right.
study for each day, and if you studied every single day?
Okay, I'll start with the second one. No, I did not study every day. I think it's important to give yourself a break. Um, I mean, it depends on you and your schedule. If it is, but I mean, you guys, you will know your schedule and what you could work with, but at least try to get at least one day for the week, you're just not doing anything. Um, no studying, just to give your brain, that break. Um, for me, I mean, I haven't, I mean, I haven't been consistent with studying. Okay, for me to say, okay, I'll study like 3 hours every single day. Like, no, I'll be lying to you. Um, as I said, it's based on your schedule. Sometimes if work gets a bit hectic for me, I would, um, I might only get like an hour in the evening, because, I have to work late or something, or if um just I'm having a long week or something, I'll study more on the weekend. And, if it is, I know I missed a few study time during the week. So, um, yeah, it really depends on the exam as well. I think a good measure is it 100 hours per hour of exam, something like
Mm-hmm.
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's an accurate estimate, but you just have to kind of adjust it, work it into your schedule to make it
Mm-hmm.
work. Yeah.
Okay. So you are now doing your FSA exams. How many have you done so far? I know you did.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was yesterday or last week, and I don't
Yeah.
remember which one of y'all.
Yeah, yes. Last week, Wednesday, I did exam ERM. The first thing I did was the ERM module, and I was able to pass that. You need to do the module before you do the ERM exam. So I passed the module, and so I did the exam last week. So I'm just waiting on results right now, but in the meantime, I'll work on the other two modules because you have three modules and three exams at the fellowship level. So I'll work on the other two while I wait for the results for ERM.
And which track did you decide
I
to
decided
take?
on the life and annuities track. Interestingly enough, I always like the life contingencies courses at UWI. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was very pleased that I was able to land a job in doing exactly that, the life and annuities. So it came natural to me to see like the life and annuities track. But yeah, you don't necessarily have to see like a track that you currently would, your job is related to. But I decided to go with it because it's something that I do genuinely like.
Okay. And working at Guardian Life, do they like give you any incentives to do the exams? So like pay
Yeah,
increases, pay for the exams or materials, those kind of things?
yeah. So that is a good question. Um, we at Guardian Life, they do at least the majority of the insurance companies in Trinidad. In once you're working like in the actuarial department, they do give you like study days. You do have study days, and it will depend on which exam that you're doing. Um, it may vary the amount of study days. So they have study days, and yes, you do get a salary increase once you pass an exam. As far as like modules, there might be a grouping of the modules. So maybe, well, I know at my time, I know the modules are different now, but when I was doing the modules, the FAP modules, it was if you pass the first five and the interim assessment, you get a increase, and then if you pass 6 to 8, and then the FA, you get another increase. So I guess, but I guess it will vary by company, but you do generally get salary increases once you pass an exam. Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone else have questions?
How did the ASA exams compare to the FSC exams?
Oh my gosh. Well, my first experience with the FSA exam was last week, and yeah, even while studying for the exam, it's a different ball game. It's nothing like the preliminary exams because the material is a lot more than the material that you'll study for one of your prelim exams. Um, and then on top of the material being like massive, the actual questions that will come on the exam would be like a small subset of it. So a good analogy the TIA had was that like you have a fishbowl, and so for the preliminary exams, the associate exams, you have a fishbowl, and then the fish is like almost the size of the fishbowl. the first being the content actually coming on the exam. So the fishbowl being the syllabus. So for the prelim exams, the content that will come on the exams would usually cover at least like 85%, 90% of the syllabus, whereas on a fellowship exam, the material in the exam would cover like maybe 20% of what is on the syllabus. So it's really tough in having to study this massive syllabus and then, getting tested on a small portion. And, if you focus on something that on a part of the syllabus that was, you probably had trouble with and you just wanted to really focus on it and then it does not come. Something that happened to me last week. And yeah, it's just really disappointing. But yeah, you really it's a different ball game entirely. Yeah, those fellowship exams.
Whatever you do
So
not prepare for, whatever topics you don't prepare for, are guaranteed to come.
Yes,
yeah.
it's like an algorithm. Like you just have
Yeah. Someone wants to know, like, as you pass more exams, do they become easier to pass? Or
no
are they just
no, not at all. Well, especially with, as we just described with the fellowship exams. I remember Mr. Smart saying, when I was at UWI, that your reward for passing an exam is to write another more difficult exam. So that's really how it goes. And also with respect to like those prelim exams, as I said, I did P and FM and those are fine. And then even within those exams it gets more difficult. So when I went to MFE, it was a bit more difficult than the P and FM and so forth. So you do have that increase in difficulty as you go up with the exams. Yeah, definitely.
So the prize you get for passing an exam is that
Yeah.
you can write an even more difficult exam.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
someone else wants to know if there's anyone in your department working as an actuary who doesn't have an ActSci degree. So like they have like a math degree, math and stats, those kind of things.
Yeah, I think, well, not currently, but there was someone who came, they did the math degree in UE, because I don't think there was ActSci at the time. So they did have a math degree. I don't think for the, like, if you're coming in as for the entry level position at Guardian, they require an ActSci degree or any math degree or anything of the sort, anything similar. So you don't necessarily need to have an actuarial science degree to have a career in actuarial.
Okay, and when you started working at Guardian, how many exams did you have? Like 3?
Yes, I did have to. I had PFM MFE.
Okay.
So yeah, and they do match your starting salary based on the exams that you have. Because of that, what we just discussed, where you get a salary increase once you pass an exam. So there'll be a base salary, and then so if you have already passed a few of your exams when you're coming in, they will tack on the increase onto that, and that will be your starting salary.
Okay, and someone wants to know if they can get like a range of the salary for an ASA who does, yeah.
Um, okay, I would say like for an ASA from maybe 14 to like 21, 14 to 20. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I know Guardian Life usually give out internships. What is the status of that program?
I'm not too sure, because I didn't hear anything about it last year. I believe probably because of the pandemic. So I'm not too sure if they're gonna start back. But if you're interested, just reach out to me and I'll find out for you.
I'm seeing a question here. When you started working at Guardian Life, what was your first job? Like, what was your title? And did they take you with no experience just because you had the 3 exams?
Yeah, I didn't have any prior actual experience. I started at Guardian Life right after I did the associate professional 1 year with Mrs. Mark, and so I did not have any prior experience. I just had the 3 exams. So yeah, I mean, once you have some sort of knowledge about insurance, like, I mean, basic stuff, they'll ask you that like in the interview, what is a premium, basic things like that. And once you could answer those things, it should be fine, because it's an entry level position. So they're not gonna really expect you to know a whole lot about actuarial and insurance and things like that.
So wait a minute. You're saying you had a year working with a fellow, and that didn't
I mean,
count for any actuarial experience?
I mean,
Huh?
like,
That's what you're telling me? Huh?
like in an insurance company, like, because it's an insurance company I was interviewing for. So I didn't have any insurance like background, but yeah, it would have counted the fact that I did work with Mrs. Smart. That also would have helped.
So you could unmute your mics, right? You don't have to be shy.
Kind of shy.
Okay, how applicable is the courses we're doing now to your current position, and did you have to learn anything new or did it come natural?
How applicable is the information that you're studying now? Like the
Yeah, I
course?
feel like the syllabus kind of changed, so you may not. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, well, I guess I don't know if I'm sure this will probably still be applicable, but as I said, with respect to the life contingencies, and that is still a course you'll do,
Yeah.
right? So, like as I said before, in the pricing, having that background knowledge would be useful to piece together, okay, what is happening? What am I doing? So it is helpful what it is you all are learning now. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, well, obviously the exams
Yep.
give like most of the information.
Yeah, true. So yeah, once you're studying the exams also, it's really ties into what you do at work. So a lot of the times I might be studying and I would think about, oh well, I remember doing this in work, and and it really ties together.
So basically working and doing the exam, like working as an actuarial associate was like helpful.
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
exam.
it is helpful, but yeah, you still need to study your syllabus,
Well,
and
yeah.
because that's what's actually coming in the exam. But at least you could try to have a bit of a deeper understanding of what they are referencing in the syllabus. If it is your custom, you say the syllabus talks about reserving. If it is you do that or on a month-to-month basis at work, you're already familiar with what the syllabus is explaining.
Okay.
Yeah. So you mentioned you are an analyst, right? Do you work with a team, and were there any other employees who were doing the exam with you at the same time that you were able to collaborate with?
Yeah, we do work in a team. So as I said, it's split between pricing and valuation. So the pricing team mainly consists of 3 analysts and a manager. And similarly with the evaluation team, there's usually three analysts and a manager. So we all usually do the exams, and yeah, we do help each other out with respect. If someone is doing the exam at the same time, we do give each other tips and advice on, writing the exams and such. So yeah, we do have that support internally as well. These are some really good questions you're asking, by the way.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, well, if there
Afternoon.
Hi.
Caitlin called me shy just now, so I decided to jump on myself. My question is it worth it? All the long nights stressing over this degree that is, in most cases, harder than most. Is the end goal worth it? In your opinion?
I would say yes. 2 reasons. One, I really do question myself, for one. Like when it is I'm studying, I was like, oh gosh, this is really what I want to do. Like I really gonna just be here studying the whole time. And then I think, okay, like I do actually enjoy what it is I do at work. I really can't see myself doing any other thing. Like I do enjoy, the pricing, and I'm actually now getting involved in some other aspects too. So it's not like you're gonna, and that's the thing with actuarial, like you don't necessarily have to be in the same thing for the rest of your life. It's so broad, it's so dynamic. You're probably not going to be working on the same thing like for more than 2-3 years. Like it's always moving, it's always dynamic, it's always something, there's always something new to discover, and that's what I like about it. So as I said, one reason I would say yes is because it is something that I do enjoy and I do like it. And then two, financially, it is worth it. It pays well. And so I'm not gonna lie, like it does pay well. And especially when it is you pass the exams, the higher up you go. Once you become a fellow, it's like, the possibilities are endless, and I think it does pay off in the long run. You will definitely feel good about yourself, and you will definitely feel good in your pockets when it is you do pass these exams and go through it. Yeah.
okay. If we have no more questions, I think we can move on to our next speaker. So, Shine.
Thank you again, Kafi, for sharing your experience and giving your advice and everything. Our second speaker is Ms. Teri Phillip, who's an actuarial analyst at Surgical Life Incorporated. Ms. Teri Phillip graduated from the University of the West Indies in 2014 with a BSc in Actuarial Science with honors as part of the first cohort to complete the full degree at the St. Augustine campus. Due to scholarship obligations, her career officially began at the Ministry of Finance as an associate professional, following which she remained in the public service as an economic analyst for an additional 3 years. This exposure provided her with an invaluable comprehensive view of the local economy and financial industry, which helped augment her actuarial acumen. launching her actuarial career. After the Ministry of Finance, she transitioned to an actuarial analyst role under the in-force management division at Guardian Group, where she performed a non-traditional actuarial role. In November 2019, Ms. Phillip joined the valuation department at Surgical Life Incorporated. She has successfully obtained the designation of Associate of the Society of Actuaries in June 2021. I'd like to invite Ms. Phillip now to speak. You're muted.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So the disclaimer here is that I'm not very tech savvy. I apologize in advance, but you can hear me now.
Yeah.
Okay, lovely. So let me just start by saying that awkward moment when the person that presents in front of you covers most of your points. Thank you very much, Kafi. But she did cover, some really important content. And in an effort to not make this really redundant for you, I will try to, not spend so long on the points that she already covered. So I did prepare something for you because I am a very visual person. So let me just share my screen and let me know if you can see it.
Yes.
Yeah, we can see it.
You can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, lovely. So let me just reintroduce myself. So my name is Teri Phillip, just as Cheyenne said. I am an associate of the Society of Actuaries. I am very new to the designation. I qualified this year, June. I hail from the University of the West Indies, the St. Augustine campus, where I did the Actuarial Science program. And I have been in the life insurance sector for about 4 years now. So I just want to touch briefly on, what my experience was like at the University of the West Indies and how I basically started doing the Actuarial Science program. Now, I would like to lie to you and tell you that I knew I wanted to be an actuary from since I was 6 years old, but I did not. I had no clue what an actuary was until right before I joined the university. So initially, I actually wanted to do computer programming, but I had a conversation with one of my teachers in SAGS, and she told me, like, you're really good at math. You have such an analytical mind. She's really buttering me up. And she told me about this actuarial science field and that she thinks I'll be really good at it. And I said, you know what, let me just go and look at it basically. So I went, I did my research, I saw the median salary, and I said, okay, yes, let's do this, right? Let's just be an actuary. Let's just start this process. So I wanted to sign up for the program, but at that point in time, there was no actuarial science degree, no program at all in the St. Augustine campus. The only place that we could have done it in my day, I'm not that old, but in my day, it was the Mona campus, in Jamaica. So I applied to Mona, but while I was waiting for a response, I actually got accepted to do a bachelor in math at the St. Augustine campus. So I said, you know what, let me just go ahead with it, start my degree. So over the July-August vacation, in between Cape Unit 2 and when my semester would have started, they came out with this article in the newspaper. I think it was Express, cannot remember. And they basically announced that they were going to start the Actuarial Science program in the St. Augustine campus. So my father, he showed me and he's like, look, isn't this what you want to do? And I said, yes, it is. So I said, okay, well, that's just a blessing from above. Let me just sign up for it. And that's essentially where my journey started in university. So I would say the first day that we spoke to the program heads or met everyone as a class, we had a discussion with Mr. Smart and the inductor. And I can't remember which one of them, but one of them told us that, it takes an actuary an average of 3 tries to pass one exam. And I all but had a panic attack in the classroom because, I told myself, well, if these pseudo smart people are taking so long to pass these exams, then who really am I, right? But, not to jump ahead in the story, and here I am as an ASA. So, technically it was a panic attack for nothing. So I prepared this for you solely because, well, one, I was trying to be really organized, but also because, I wanted you to have something at least tangible to leave here with. And Caitlin, I will probably provide this PPP for you, this PowerPoint presentation for you after. So if anybody wants it, you can have it. I guess you can There, thank you. So, yeah, I think it's really important for you to have something tangible that you could always go back and refer to if you need to when you start your career, when you start, your exams and so on. So currently, I work in Surgical Life Insurance Company. I work there under the Financial Reporting and Budgeting Department, which is also known as the Valuation Department. I am an actual analyst there, and I have been for 2 years. My anniversary is actually today. Yeah, so 2 years I've been there. So now when Caitlin and Mr. Smart reached out to me to speak today, I kind of jumped at the opportunity. And I did so mostly because I do think that my journey from the first day that I started UWI to where I am today has been rocky. It's simply put, it has been rocky. But I have always said that I think that, it makes me well equipped to share not only, the lessons that I've learned, but the tips and the tricks of the trade that I've learned along the way. And I will get to that eventually. So let's just jump in. And I kind of created a little scenario here to pique your interest. But I want you to kind of just tap into the character a little bit, right? So let's just say 10 years have passed. You have successfully passed all your exams. You successfully passed all your FAP assignments. And you're in some lime or some family cookout, I don't know. And someone asks you, well, what do you do for a living? What is your job? What is your career? What do you do? So the actuaries generally have this very unexplainable sense of pride when it comes to, our profession. And I understand. I think we are the creme de la creme. Don't let anybody convince you otherwise. Don't let those med students convince you otherwise, Michael. But we are the creme de la creme. So let's just say somebody asks you what you do and you respond proudly, I am an actuary. So now this is your official warning to brace yourself because these will most likely be the answers. And yes, it's in a pie chart because we love math. So let me just go through the responses. So the first one, wow, you must be really good at math. Now this usually does not come alone. They usually follow this up with some sort of impossible arithmetic question that no one can answer without a calculator. The second, I bet you make a lot of money, which is also not their business. The third, are the exams really that hard? Yes, it is. And the last and my most favorite, what is even an actuary? We get this all the time. Now, in my personal experience, when I tell people that I am an actuary, 95% of the time, and I kid you not, this is the response that I get. What is an actuary? And at this point, I think I'm pretty tired of having to explain what it is. I usually just tell people to Google it, right, at this point. So unfortunately, that is exactly what we're going to talk about today. We're going to answer the question, what is an actuary? And I know at this point, everyone here probably has already done their research, whether it be on Google, beanactuary.com, SOA.org. You'll have probably spent a lot of time Googling what is an actuary, what parts are available to you, but we're still going to go through it. So an actuary is a professional that measures, analyzes, and manages risk. And I will stop right there because I like to say that this is basically our album cover. To me, this is what, basically embodies the actuarial profession. It is someone that measures, analyzes, and manages risk. And how do we do that? We do that using methods that we learned in math, statistics, financial theory, and economics, right? Or a combination of all of those. So as an actuary, you actually have a lot of paths that are available to you. We usually split them in two. It could be the traditional path, which you would probably know as insurance, life, general, all of those things, or the non-traditional path. And I've actually seen people branch off into a lot of different things. I've seen people work in the financial sector, in banks, as risk analysts, data scientists. Honestly, the possibilities are kind of endless with our skill set. I've seen people work in pension plans, in gas companies, all of those things. But today, we'll just focus on the traditional path, but more specifically, the life insurance field, because that's where Kafi and I work, basically. So in this field, like Kafi said, you basically see two main types of actuaries. Now, this list doesn't cover all the types of actuarial jobs that there are in the life insurance sector. In Surgical Life, we actually have a budget department where there are a bunch of actuaries that work there. And also from the introduction, you would have heard that I worked in the Enforce Management Division in Guardian Group. And there we did nothing traditional in terms of an insurance company. We, did a lot of ad hoc requests for the CEO, a lot of profit generating projects, things. Essentially, it was us solving business problems using actuarial techniques, but it was not a traditional role. But usually these are the two main types that you'd see in a life insurance company. So Kafi already went through the pricing and product development actually, so I'll just talk about the valuation side, which is what I am. So what exactly is a valuation actuary and what do they do? So let's just go back to the album cover basically that I was talking about, that actuaries essentially manage, analyze, and measure risk, right? So what exactly is the risk here then that the valuation actuary has to take into consideration? So we basically manage the risk that the insurance company will not be able to fulfill its financial obligations to the client. Now, when we talk about financial obligations, we're really talking about, the benefits or claims that fall due for the company. And the most common one that you would probably have heard of already is the death claim, right? A basic life insurance contract. So let's just say, for example, a client comes to our company and buys life insurance from us. The contract that we issue basically states that we will have to pay some sum, let's just say, for an example, $1 million whenever this person dies. So that $1 million there is what we actually refer to as the financial obligation. And this list, once again, does not represent all the benefits or the claims that we'll have in an insurance company. There's annuity payments, Trinidadians call it pension, but it is not really pension. We have income protection, critical illness, all of these things. So essentially, you are managing the risk that your insurer will not be able to make these payments at all. And this can happen for a plethora of reasons. It could be, the company just generally is illiquid. It does not have enough cash on hand to make these $1 million payments. The returns that we got from our investment portfolio are pretty low, anything like that. So how exactly then does a valuation actually manage that risk? So this is done through a process called reserving. So now for the persons who may have not heard this term before, I try to break this down into very high level, simple points to basically explain what we do on a day by day or a month by month. So first things first, we have to assess the entire portfolio, the block of our business. So we have this entire group of clients that have different characteristics. You have people with different ages, different smoking statuses, different genders. And we have to really assess this group of clients and develop some sort of expectations for, around how we expect them to behave in the future. So for example, we expect 10 people to die next year or 5 people to stop paying premiums in the next 5 years. So these are what we basically call assumptions. And we have to develop assumptions around our entire block and use those assumptions to come up with basically the reserves. So we calculate and we tell the company, okay, well, this is how much money you need to set aside in order for you to meet the payments that we expect will fall due. And well, these payments could fall due from next week all the way to the next 25 years, right? Now, the last point I have here is that it's done on a periodic basis. And this one is actually pretty common sense. You can't really expect to, tell your company, let's reserve X amount of dollars in 2017 and expect it to still be relevant in 2021, right? And the reason why is because things are always changing. There are so many moving parts when we talk about the reserve process and, emerging experience. And one of those examples would be COVID-19, right? Nobody expected COVID-19 to come, but now we actually have to, revise and update our assumptions to incorporate all these new emerging activities that are happening with our client base. So I put a little quote here that actual reserves are the amount of money that an insurance company saves in order to be able to pay for the expenses and claims that it expects it will have to pay in the future. And this is really just to summarize what I've just said. This is what an actual reserve is. So we basically spoke about, well, my line of work, what my job is like. Now, the question that I usually get is, what drove me here? Why do I even want to be a valuation actuary? And I actually had a conversation with one of my colleagues recently, and we were kind of debating about, what we think is important when you are looking for a career, when you're trying to choose a job, basically. And this is my personal list. These are the 3 things that I came up with. The first one is impact. Second is application. And the third one I would like to say is the ability for the job to pique my interest, but I did not know how to summarize that in one word, so bear with me. I just used curiosity. So the first one, impact. So essentially, I would not like to be in a job that, I feel like my work is going unnoticed or that I'm not contributing meaningfully to the job. Now, when you're a valuation actuary, this is not the case. we are providing reserves to the business, and we're actually helping them to remain solvent. Because if you end up in a situation where you cannot pay your contractual obligations, your financial obligations, then essentially you're in a pickle, right? So as a valuation actuary, you have impact because you are directly impacting the viability or the profitability of the business. The second thing is application, and it's important to me because, you know, I would have hated to go through an entire degree, a 3 or 4 year degree, and then end up in a career where none of the information that I've learned or none of the work that I've studied actually applies to my job. And there's actually this joke that people make on social media with, when have I ever used Pythagoras theorem in real life? And it's true. When have you actually really used it, right? So as a valuation actuary, this is also not the case. You have application in your job. It pulls a lot from the core concepts that you would have learned in your exams and you would have learned in your undergrad degree, and it comes up pretty frequently. A lot of times I have to, you know, provide some sort of first principles build up or explanation for why my reserve movement was, you know, bigger than expected or anything like that. Or even when you're developing assumptions, you also need to fall back on these first principles or these core concepts that you would have learned in school. The last one, ability to pique my interest. I personally find the evaluation job is interesting because when you develop all these assumptions, and like I said, there's so many moving parts, you know, you actually get to see how experience pans out, right? Like you have your expectations and you can directly compare it as time passes to how these actual experiences play out, whether or not we did have 10 deaths in the next year. And that's essentially what keeps me going as well too. The fact that, you know, I can find interest in these things. So we basically spoke about what evaluation does, my line of work, what my job is like. So let's just talk about how I basically got here. So usually when you ask an actuary or anyone in our field how they reached where they are, they usually give you this roadmap, right? Now, I mean, for all intents and purposes, it does lay out the path that you need to become an actuary, but I always find it very incomplete. And the reason why is because nowhere in this roadmap they talk about balancing work and studies. They don't talk about the stresses of the exams or the persistency that you need or the devastation that comes with failing exams along the way. And all of these things are really part of the process, right? So now I said earlier that my path to ASA was pretty rocky and I learned a lot of lessons along the way. So while I kind of go through my professional journey, I kind of just want to stress on the things that I've learned, mostly because I think it's important to keep these things at the back of your head while you start your exams or your career. But, you know, it's kind of like, you know, Trinidad parents would always say, like, learn from my stupid mistakes. So basically, that's what this is. So when I left the University of the West Indies, I started working at the Ministry of Finance because of scholarship requirements, right? So I started there in the accounting department first, and then I moved on to the economic management division. One point to note is that my position was not actuarial at all, and I actually was working under people who did not even know what an actuary was, what an actuary did, anything like that. So you can kind of imagine how devastating that was for me, a new student coming straight out of my studies, you know, eager to apply the things you learn. But this is actually where I learned my first lesson. And the first lesson is you can quite literally be an actuary anywhere, and trust me on that. Like the same thing I said, our skill set is so diverse, you can literally apply it in any job. So for me, after being upset about it for honestly a few years, I kind of started realizing that, you know, well, I'm still good in math at the end of the day. You know, I understand statistics, I understand the financial sector and econ, and it started to come in handy as soon as I made the decision to apply the things. And, you know, I kind of used that basically to propel my career in the ministry. So in the ministry as well, one of the problems that I had was my credentials. So because my degree was not an economics degree, they could not retain me as a permanent worker. So they actually had me as a contract worker. So I was a contract worker on a recurring 6-month contract for about 3 years after that. And yeah, so I basically did that for years. And so just a bit of information, a recurring 6-month contract meant that I had no days. So no study days, no sick days, no vacation days, no casual days, absolutely no days. And I did this for years and I stayed there close to 4 years, right? So I essentially was faced with that dilemma of, you know, how am I possibly going to battle exams or study for these exams when I simply have no time to study? So by force, I kind of had to learn how to balance studying and work, but most importantly, not to bite off more than I could chew and go crazy, which is lesson number 2, right? So lesson number 2 here is to set realistic goals. So for me, my realistic goal was to start off with 1 exam per year, because personally, that's all I could have managed. So I actually had to use my evenings after work, just basically to wait out traffic to study. I used to have to go, we had a library in the building, so I had to go downstairs in the library on lunchtime. I would reach home after work, take a nap, get up, study again until the morning. And honestly, it was a sacrifice that I had to make. But when I actually committed to that 1 exam per year, things started to get a little easier for me because I could schedule my study time a little better and all of that. So my first exam was actually in university. I did FM first because I liked financial math. I think that's what they call it in my time. I don't know if it changed now, but I really did like financial math. And I told myself, like, why not try my hand at it? And I failed miserably. I got a 2. Well, yeah, I think I got a 2. If I got any more than a 2, I'll be surprised. But I got a 2. And, it kind of deterred me for a while. But when I started in the working world, I told myself, just try a new exam. So I started probability. That's what I would call my first exam after UE. And to this day, that actually was the longest time I have ever taken to study for an exam. And the reason why is because I really just didn't know how to, right? Like, I think in Trinidad, we kind of spoon-fed content right from primary school straight up to university, because you have teachers, you have professors that you could consult or ask questions. You could sit down in a class and hear them talk to you. And for me, it was really difficult to transition to self-study, because I'm really good at like I said, I like visual stuff, but then I'm also good at listening to people and retaining information like that. So it actually took me some time to figure out what study method would make me remember things better, understand concepts better, which is why number 3 is on the list, right? Which is to choose a study method that works for you. Now, for me, and I was actually telling Mrs. Smart this the other day, I actually have to talk to myself in order for concepts to stick. Like, I am that person that needs to go all the way back from first principles and understand something in order for me to remember it. I am not the type of person that could sit down with cue cards of formulas and regurgitate and remember and it will come back to me. I cannot do that at all. So one of the things that works for me, I got a whiteboard and I started teaching myself the concepts as if I was in an imaginary class. Right? So that's basically what works for me. It may be different for everyone out there. Some people may be good at remembering information. Some people may be good with writing it down multiple times. You basically have to gauge in your first exam what study method works for you, and things will get easier as you go along the process. So, okay, so basically back to my journey. So in my last year of Ministry of Finance, I actually stopped doing exams. And that was because I thought that I had way too many preliminary exams and I had 0 years of experience. And I don't know, somehow I convinced myself that, I wouldn't be marketable if I start looking for jobs in the field. Nobody told me that, by the way. Like, nobody told me that. I kind of just made that up in my head. And I lost an entire year because of it. And in addition to that, I also flip-flopped between, SOA and IFO exams because I thought I wanted to go the UK master's route. But I, once again, did not seek advice with respect to any of those things. So I would always say to like any aspiring actor, anybody who asks me for advice, the best advice is to seek advice. You can literally reach out to anyone. The community in Trinidad is so small, in the wider Caribbean, it is pretty small, it's very intimate. And you have the means to message now in this day and age. You have LinkedIn, you have social media, like you probably know somebody that your aunt know that is an actuary. Honestly, just get out there and ask for advice. Don't end up in a situation that I did where I convinced myself I knew what was best. Speak to people who have been through it, speak to people who have already qualified, and see if you could get some advice from them about what decisions you should possibly make for your own path. So eventually I moved out from the Ministry of Finance and I got a job at Guardian Group. And from there I moved to Surgical, where I finally qualified. And if you were kind of paying attention to the introduction, so I started school in 2014 and it's now 2021. So it took me roughly 7 years to qualify. And I personally know people who have done it in 3 years, 4 years. But I'm pretty sure by now you can kind of understand why I took so long with my specific journey. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. It does not matter if you take 10 years, if you take 3 years, the designation is really the same. Your only competition here is yourself, which is number 5. Your workload is unique to you. Your path is unique to you. So you really should not be, looking at your friends and say, oh, well, they passed P and I could not pass P. That is not your business. You just focus on your own path, keep your head up and keep going, which is also my last point. And this is the last thing I really want to say to you guys is to not give up. You are more than capable, to become an actuary. And like I said, the first day of my university life, I heard that, three tries to pass one exam. And that really it could have deterred me, but it did not. And I pushed forward, I continued, and I became an ASA. I'm still going to push forward to become an FSA. So, just basically keep at it. Don't let anything convince you that you're not capable, not even your exam mark, honestly. Just keep pushing and, eventually you'd reach there. So basically that's my journey in a nutshell. And honestly, it's the end of my presentation. I just have a thank you here. You can find me on LinkedIn. You really can. I hope you learned something from my very short presentation, and I am open to any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll go into the Q&A now. I have a question first. Before deciding on going into evaluation, did you think of any other field to go into? Or were there options?
So, starting off my career, I actually really thought that I would have liked to do non-traditional work. So, when I first heard about the actual profession, I think for me personally, I thought, I'd be a really good consultant. I could kind of dip my foot, in all of these little things and kind of get the full experience, etc. But then when I did life contingencies, MLC, I think is what they call it in my day. I realized that I actually really like the content, and that actually stemmed from university as well, because I also really liked actual math. I like Life Gone One, those things. And, when I wrote the exam, I told myself, it would not be pretty bad for me to have to do this for the rest of my life. So I kind of narrowed in a little bit on the life insurance, field. And, I got my foot in when I started in Guardian, but that also was a non-conventional role. And I also felt like, I need to get more into the technical aspect of it to be able to do programming on your access models and all of those things. So really and truly, it was because of my love for the exam that basically made me decide that I want to do valuation or want to stay in the life insurance track.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? You can send to me or you can meet yourself.
Okay, I have a few questions. So, firstly, so from following up with a question that I asked Kafi, so when Kafi said that the highest in the range for ASAs is 20K, a lot of persons messaged me and were like, all this work for just 20K. So is it different in each company, or was that just where she works?
Yeah, so it's different in each company, but it's pretty hard for us to know what each company offers without actually working there. So I guess maybe that ranges from Kafi's experience. It actually could go much higher than that. And that is just specific to Trinidad. When you start to venture out into different Caribbean countries, when you go to the US, the ranges also change. So yeah, it's kind of all over the place. But no, it's a lot of work, but you are well compensated, especially when you reach FSA. You should still reach to, aim to reach to the furthest level. So FSAs are very well paid as well in Trinidad.
So, you're doing the FSA exams. I think you were the one who had the exam yesterday. I kind of mixed it up. I wasn't. Yeah.
So I had a exam yesterday, but I did not do it. So going back to what I said about work and studying and balancing those two things. So I actually had to defer my exam to next year because we had some things kind of pop up in work that were pretty urgent. But I did defer it to next year, April. I kind of already studied for most of it, so I'm hoping that it would not be that difficult. But in the interim, I'm actually doing the ERM module that Kafi spoke about, because that is not, there's no deadline for that, basically. It's basically a go at your own pace. So yeah, that's what is on the agenda for me now.
So you're doing the same track that Kafi is doing as well?
Yes, so my first exam was going to be the pricing exam. So I am sticking to the individual life and annuity track. My job is in that field as well, so it will help me, be a better actuary. And any other questions? Don't all rush at once.
Tell me a bit, talk a bit about your role at the ministry, right? I mean, you were there, you were undervalued there to some extent, but you were able to actually make them at the end of your time there. They actually recognized your value.
Yes.
Because you demonstrate, because they didn't, you were like a unicorn. They didn't understand what you were, right? But by the end, you made them understand. Could you talk a bit about that? That the folks said. I think that's a very valuable. That was a very interesting experience that you went through. If you want to share that.
Yeah, sure. No problem. So I think all of that really stemmed from them not understanding what actuarial science is and the kind of skills that we would bring to the workplace. But I did work in a department where everyone, literally everyone in my department had an economics degree. And my knowledge on econ was, as far as econ 1 and 2 in year 1. I did econ for CAPE, so I had that background understanding. But, I guess in their minds, I did not meet the skill set that they needed, but they didn't realize what skill set they needed. So when I started off there, I did a lot of mundane tasks, like writing emails. I had to write the balance of payment section and the external economy section for the review of the economy. All of these things, a lot of words. And it only really was when I joined the budget team that I was kind of able to use that knowledge in math to kind of propel myself there, because prior to that, I don't think anybody in the ministry knew who I was at all. So essentially on the budget team, we kind of had to do some work on the gas subsidy, and that was basically a very jumbled Excel sheet with a lot of calculations, and I had to sit down and use my mathematical knowledge to kind of reverse engineer it to set up the sheets in such a way that I could do projections for them in-house as opposed to them going to the Ministry of Energy and all of those things. And it's actually through that work that I started to kind of make a name for myself in there. And it's actually, it really is a learning experience for me. Sorry. Yeah, it really was a learning experience for me. And like I said before, it really does say that you can be an actuary anywhere. You just really have to kind of tap into those skills and show them that we are definitely needed in the workplace.
When you were leaving the ministry, did they not try to convince you to stay?
What's so smart? You're trying to cause back in our head. Yeah, so they did. I told them that I was going to Guardian, and they basically said that they had a longer contract for me. It was paying higher. They would kind of get their stuff together. But in reality, it was a 6-month recurring contract. I really wanted some sick days at the end of the day, 1. And then 2, it was never meant to be, me working in the Ministry of Finance long term. Like I said, I got placed there because of scholarship requirements. And, the public sector is kind of like a black hole at times. You get sucked in. And, I really didn't expect to be there for 4 years. I always wanted to leave. So even when I was ready to leave and they said, no, still stay on stream, we still have things that we want you to do. We have, an IF and all of those things. Like I still made the jump because I wanted to start my actual career.
How difficult did you find it moving from working in the ministry, non-actuarial based work, to Guardian life and then to surgical? Like, how was that transition for you?
So the transition from the Ministry of Finance to Guardian Group was actually the biggest learning curve that I have had in my life. And I think a lot of that is because there was a lot of time that passed between, when I did life contingencies and those exams to when I actually started working in Guardian Group. And then because of the position that I had, the learning curve was so steep because we were not trying to do traditional actuarial work. A lot of the work that we had to do, we had to build from the ground up. It wasn't, following model documentation to produce reserves. We had to do, create a whole new department for customer retention and do data statistics and analysis on those things. And no one in the department ever did it before. So it was a very steep learning curve for me because I had to get on my game with the life insurance concepts. And then in addition to that, try to figure out how to create these things from scratch when there are also a lot of moving parts. Now, when I went to Sagicor, it was not that difficult for me in terms of the learning curve because I already kind of had a background in life insurance at that point in time. And when I transitioned, I actually was supposed to be working on IFRS 17 mostly, not so much on the valuation side, but things kind of changed with that. But I actually think I grasped the concepts in Sagicor a lot faster than Guardian, mostly because there was documentation. You have people who experienced these things before who could kind of teach you how to go through the models. And even though we do have to build things from the ground up, because I had that experience in the first few months of working there with the models and understanding what is going on in the department, it was not that difficult for me, to be honest. Thank you, Aisha, for your question.
Okay, I have another question. So with regards to programming and those kind of things, which language do you guys use on a daily basis? Is it like C++ or R, or is it just like a built-in kind of thing?
Yes, so Kafi mentioned we have an actuarial software called ActSci. I'm not too sure if the program now still does an assignment with ActSci. But basically that is the actual program that we use, and within that we actually have coding to do, which is probably one of the greater parts of my day because I like coding. So we do that, but otherwise we don't use C++. I know we would have had courses like that in university. We don't use R. We do VBA on and off, but mostly it's just programming in the Access model software.
We have an access license at the university.
Yeah.
And Jane Doctor was the person. It was an assignment to do in Life Fonts 2.
Yes.
And Jane had the training and whatnot. But because Jane left abruptly recently, and we had to bring Roland in, and Roland does not to use it. When it's not being offered this semester, but next year we're gonna see about bringing it back in. So unfortunately, just because of the complications that we've had with Senior Doctor, we were not able to incorporate it into Life Fonts 2 this semester. But that's going to be changed going forward.
Yeah.
Because it's a very useful thing. In fact, it was his idea. It was a very useful thing, but then he stopped actually using it. And because, but anyway, I don't belabor the point. Going forward, it will be brought back into the program in the future.
Yeah, well,
hopefully by next year.
That's actually pretty good because it makes you a little more attractive when you start looking for jobs out there. If you can already kind of handle yourself and know your way around access and stuff like that. So yeah, that's good.
So Terry, did you do an exam last week, or or you did the modules? You did the RM module.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when are you going to write your next exam?
April. So the period to April, yeah. I can't even do any further than that.
The pricing exam you said you're going to do?
Yeah.
Someone wants to know if you did any internships, like
No.
other than having to work as an AP and stuff. No? Okay.
No, I didn't.
Speaking of internships, does Sagicor offer internships? Because I know Guardian Group and stuff they do, but I don't know, like, yeah.
Yeah, so when I started Sagicor, we had interns over the summer right before I came, July, August, I came, sorry. But since COVID, I have not heard anything about that. Not even this year coming. I'm not too sure what is going on with that. The same way Kafi probably isn't sure about Guardian. They haven't announced anything as yet. But yeah, we do take in interns. I think we take in around 2 or 3 interns. But if I hear anything about it, I could reach out to you. But for now, there's nothing in the weeks.
Okay.
Because of the paradigm of the pandemic, it's really made it difficult for companies to do internships because in terms you don't really know anything, and to try and teach someone to do it online, they haven't adapted to that as yet. So going forward, I think they're going to be once things get back to normal, things will get back to normal. I think there will be more internships in the future at companies in Trinidad, especially since we have people like Teri and Kafi flying the flag high for our program. And they say, listen, hey, people coming out of the ActSci program at St. Augustine seem to be doing okay. Maybe we need to find more where that came from, you see? So going forward, I'm certain that there will be internships, especially as things get back to normal. Yeah. And as well, and I'm going to be putting effort into precipitating those sorts of opportunities. In the past, I would arrange internships for students out of directly. But again, the last 2 years have been strange, and it was not possible to do so. Yeah.
Okay, does anyone have any other questions? Okay. Well, if we don't have any other questions, I guess, Mr. Smart, you could go on with the vote of thanks.
Oh,
and
yeah.
thanks again, Teri and Kafi.
No problem.
Kafi's still here? Not certain.
Yes, I am.
Yes,
Yeah.
Hi. Sorry, so yes, as I was telling Caitlin, I've been switching between 2 meetings. I'm actually in a faculty board meeting simultaneously while I'm in this one. But yeah, thank you so much, both of you, for taking time out of your busy days to come and give back to the program and to talk to people who were in your shoes not long ago. And I think you guys are setting a really good example and should be a source of inspiration and encouragement for our current students. You are a manifestation of the fact that it is possible to pass these exams and to achieve a designation, to become ASAs and whatnot. Clearly, it's possible. Clearly, it's possible to do so with a UWI degree from St. Augustine. So if you can do it, so can others, right? Obviously, it's not an easy thing to do, but then if it was easy, it really wouldn't be worth it. So yes, it's difficult, but because it's difficult, it's worth it. I think people again get insight into that there is a payoff, there is value to this degree that you're pursuing. It's not just an academic degree that is not practical in terms of its applications, like maybe some of the other degrees are, like I don't know, maybe English literature well, or whatever else. And as Teri would have pointed out, she was in a situation where she was working with people who had, I suppose, economics degrees, maybe business degrees, and so on and so forth. And she was able to demonstrate that she had a skill set that surpassed them, right? Imagine in the Ministry of Finance, they didn't understand how to do the finance calculations for the energy subsidy. Well, fortunately, they were able to do that because they had a graduate from the Actuarial Science program. Yeah. So Teri's a good example of someone who has gone out into the working world after graduating, graduating from the program, and has shown that the skill set that you get from the program has wide-ranging applications. As we would have seen from the last talk we had, where we had some people come in and graduates from the program who are not following what I would describe as a traditional career path, working for an insurance company or consulting firm or for a pension consulting firm and so on. There are many, many opportunities with this degree. Yeah, it's just the only limits really are the limits of your imagination. So Teri and Kafi, thank you so much for coming in again. Keep up the good work. Keep flying the flag high. Thank you so much.
Thanks again, Mrs. Smart, and thank you all for having me and Teri here today. It was a pleasure.
It was definitely a pleasure. Thank you.
So we've come to the end of our event. I'd like to give my personal thanks again to Kafi and Teri for taking the time out of their day to come and talk to us and give us their experience and advice on everything. And I'd also like to thank all the members for coming out, and with the Life After UWI Part 1, where people came in and talked of the non-traditional career paths, in addition to Part 2, the Actuary, with the traditional career paths. I hope you all have an idea of what you can do after your degree and after finishing your degree, so that you're not lost. And there's many things you can go into, as everyone has said, all our guest speakers have said. There's many paths you can go into with an actuarial degree. So I hope you all are not lost when you finish your degree, and you'll be able to find the career path that best suits you. So thank you again for everyone for coming out.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.